All right, welcome. This is DB talking now, DB talking birds, DB talking Philadelphia Eagles. Happy Sunday, everyone. Today, the Philadelphia Eagles take on the Arizona Cardinals at 2:05 Mountain Standard Time. This is going to be an incredible matchup, I think. A couple of key things that I want to get into going into today's game against the Arizona Cardinals at their stadium here in Arizona, which is where I am located. So I can tell you it's going to be a beautiful day as far as weather is concerned uh, in regards to that matchup. Um, we are without our rookie right tackle Jack Driscoll this week, and so as I've mentioned in other streams as well, um, I am insanely worried about the fact that Matt Pryor is going to be filling in for him. I am one of those people who absolutely despises Matt Pryor. We should have cut him a long time ago, I think. I understand why they like him, you know, in the playoff game against Seattle last week, or last season, but he just not has not lived up to that billing so far this season. He's been pretty much struggling. So I think that Hassan Reddick and them boys are gonna have the opportunity to feast off of that side of the offensive off of that side of the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. So I'm pretty worried about that. Um, Another thing is, talking about the defense as well. I was having a conversation with one of my fellow subscribers, Upstart 101. Great great channel that he has. So if you have the chance to, if you have the time to go and look at his channel, you go ahead and like and subscribe. But we were talking about some defensive keys and how it does look like Darius Slay is not going to play in this game, which is going to be a huge loss for us especially against the likes of Larry Fitzgerald and DeAndre Hopkins. Now, if Darius Slay did play today, he probably would have been shadowing DeAndre Hopkins. And kind of one of the things that we were going over was just the fact that DeAndre Hopkins was going to be a handful regardless of Slay being in there or not, and and given the performance that Darius Slay has kind of put up over these past few weeks, it's like, what are we really going to be missing? And obviously, I'm not taking anything away from Darius Slay. He still is above average to elite cornerback, and his presence on the field is always needed. But but that's a fellow Eagles fan who's not excited for the game today. um, and we will just need to we will just we will well we were gonna struggle anyway. So now it looks like we have Graylin Arnold who is elevated from the practice squad. Kevon Seymour is probably going to fill in for Darius Slay, and then but we're missing a ton of guys in the secondary, obviously, and so that's going to be a big thing. That's going to be a big thing that we'll just have to focus on. It's going to be dependent upon how well Jim Schwartz decides to put this game plan together. And I don't have any doubt that Jim Schwartz will be able to do that. We've seen him do this before. And I point to the game plan that Jim Schwartz put together against the Saints in that playoff game about 2 years ago, where we had the likes of Cravon LeBlanc, we had Devontae Bosby, and only Jalen Mills back there, and we were able to do a really good job against that New Orleans Saints offense 2 years ago in the playoffs. And it's sort of a similar situation. Obviously, we do have Jalen Mills back there again. We have and then the rest of the other guys are just practice squad players, and then Michael Jaquette, who pretty much just got signed off the streets. But I liked what he did against Amari Cooper, so I have some hope and faith in Michael Jaquette the third. So I'm hoping that he's increased his technique a little bit over the past few weeks of practice and development for himself. So we'll have to see. It's going to be we're going to need the defensive line to really get pressure on Kyler Murray. That's going to be the key. And it looks like as of last week, Kyler Murray did a really good job of getting himself and the offense back back up and running for that Arizona Cardinals team. It's going to be a really interesting matchup because it's a big game. It's absolutely 100% without a doubt a huge game for the Philadelphia Eagles. The thing is, and the reason for that is if the Eagles lose today and the Redskins beat the Seattle Seahawks, then it's officially over. The season's officially over. That is number one, first and foremost. So now the likelihood of that happening, I guess the chances for both teams are pretty much the same. There's only one interesting tidbit that isn't really being talked about that much, and I think, and I was listening to Inside the Birds with Adam Kaplan and Jeff Mosher, and this is where this was brought up. Was the Seahawks don't really have anything to play for today. They do have everything to play for next week, but not today when they play the Redskins. So the how much effort the Seahawks will actually put in is in question, and when Jeff Mosher kind of talked about this on Inside the Birds, I kind of shrugged at the idea because it's like, well, why wouldn't you? I mean, you're a professional NFL team, and it's especially a team like the Seahawks. Of course they're gonna put in effort. Of course they're gonna go out there, and every team wants as many wins as possibly as much as possible. I mean, that's just hands down. Like anything other than that is absolute ludicrous. So, but that is the fact of the matter, is that if the Eagles lose today, the Redskins win, then the season for the Philadelphia Eagles is officially done. Another thing I want to touch on is big news, and I was absolutely stoked to hear this news. Absolutely stoked, was the fact that we went ahead and signed John Dorsey as a GM consultant. Now, what in the world does that even mean? A GM consultant? What does that even mean? So you're telling me, of course, your GM needs consulting. Yes, I know. Out of all GMs in the NFL, if there's any GM that needs consulting, it would in fact be Harry Roseman, because he's a fucking dumb, a dumb something or other. He doesn't know what he's doing, more or less. He just doesn't know what he's doing. And so it was absolutely great to hear, because that is the name that I've been campaigning for John Dorsey since 2017, but when he was free and then went to the Browns. I believe that was 2017. And obviously, as we know, John Dorsey is responsible for putting that Chiefs team together. He's responsible for putting that Chiefs team together. He drafted the big three: Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes. And if he didn't have sole responsibility in drafting those top three, which he probably didn't, because obviously Andy Reid probably had some say. Let's be real. He was definitely a part of it, and his resume speaks for itself. His pedigree speaks for itself. John Dorsey didn't just come to the Philadelphia Eagles to be a consultant, people. So anybody who's freaking out about the fact that he's just a consultant, like, pull back on the reins. John Dorsey did not just come to the Philadelphia Eagles to be a consultant. And I'm sure that in the interview process that was brought up between John Dorsey and whoever hired him, because I doubt it was Howie Roseman. So, it could have been Jeffrey Lurie. But I bet it was brought up that you might have the opportunity to interview for the GM job, and it would not shock me whatsoever if that were the case. You know what I mean? So I think that I think that's nothing to be worried about. I'm completely stoked with the fact that that is the case. Um, so all good news there. All good news there. Let's jump back to this matchup real quick with the Eagles and the Cardinals, though. Um, we're gonna have to, yeah, we're gonna have to put pressure on Kyler Murray. I expect him to implement some sort of spy. You know what I mean? And who that would be, I do not know. But I would say, and I was thinking about this over the week as well. I think it would probably, I was thinking whether it would be Alex Singleton. And then I started to think a little bit. I wasn't sure if it would be Alex Singleton because we need one of our linebackers to be able to cover the tight ends. Kyler Murray loves to go to the tight ends when he has no options to either tight ends or check down to the running back. But they're not a team that's the other interesting thing too, is that they're not a team that really likes to go vertical. They don't go vertical very much. They usually do go more of a horizontal. They usually do have a more horizontal type approach with their offense. But the thing is that it would not shock me, due to the lack of bodies that we have in the secondary this week against the Arizona Cardinals and the likes of DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk. We cannot forget Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk can take the top off. It would not surprise me if they went vertical. Now, with that said, Andy Isabella can fly. Andy Isabella is one of their wide receivers who can really, really fly. He's great. He's young. The interesting thing about that is that anytime that Larry is on the field or Larry is active, Andy Isabella, they usually play it so that Andy Isabella is a healthy scratch. It would not shock me if Andy Isabella is active along with the other wide receivers in this game, because of the fact that they might have the opportunity to go vertical. So it's definitely something I'm worried about. Definitely something I'm worried about. I'm approaching this week against the Cardinals the same way that I approached last week. I don't think that we're going to win. As much as I love my Philadelphia Eagles, and as much as I'm excited to see Jalen Hurts progress and see what his development is going to look like, especially now that the defenses have film on him, I think it just might be a little bit out of our reach. Cliff Kingsbury, the Arizona Cardinals head coach, is, he's a great young, innovative offensive mind, and I feel like he's going to put something together that is going to be a good counter to whatever Jim Schwartz is gonna come up with. But we'll have to see. On top of spying Kyler Murray, I would say I wouldn't expect it actually to be Alex Singleton. They might do it with Duke Riley. They might spy him with Duke Riley, but or they could just do a mixture of both. That's what I expect them to do. They're going to have a spy either way. But again, that's kind of the benefit of having a defensive scheme that incorporates the wide nine, right? Because we're so spread out wide, we're already cutting off the outside lanes for the quarterback to get out of the pocket. So it's going to be really important for the defensive ends to win their matchups. So I expect Josh Sweat to have another big game. I hope that that's going to be one of the keys. To highlight is Josh Sweat needs to have another big game. Derek Barnett needs to have another good game, and Javon Hargrave needs to have another good game. So is the entire defensive line. I'm not going to go through them all. Defensive line: Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat, Derek Barnett. The entire defensive line needs to have a good game. So, but one of the guys that I am really excited about and really excited to see progress on that defense is Alex Singleton. You know, I mean, talk about it. I mean, I wish we started him. I wish we started him from the very get go, from week one. That whole Nate Gary business was absolutely ridiculous. We could have won a couple games. We could have won a couple games. It's just the fact of the matter. If it was not Nate Gary in there and it was Alex Singleton, but that's what we'll have to watch out for. We're gonna have to contain a couple of these wide receivers. We do not have good history with going against Larry Fitzgerald. That's just the fact of the matter. Another news report this morning that kind of broke out. Everybody's kind of freaking out about it, but it shouldn't come as a shocker, is that if the Eagles decide to roll with Jalen Hurts going into next season, Carson Wentz will want out of Philadelphia. Why is that a shocker to anybody? Of course, Carson Wentz isn't going to want to be a backup. Of course, he's not going to want to do that. That shouldn't be a shock to anybody. Now, the Eagles did go ahead and report this morning that they will roll with Jalen Hurts the rest of the season, so we will not see Carson start another snap, unless, of course, something, God forbid, happens to Jalen Hurts, like an injury or something similar to that nature, or COVID. Hopefully not. But yeah, we will not see Carson again start at the starting quarterback position for the Philadelphia Eagles again this season. So I expect, I hope that Jalen Hurts continues to progress, and I hope that he plays well today. I feel like I got to reiterate this because I feel so bad about what's happening with Carson, that I have to revisit it. I have to say, it's not like I don't want Jalen to do bad. But I want him to do well, but I want Carson to be our guy. It's just hands down. I still have that belief in my mind. So, and I think that's what we need to remember too, is we don't know what Jalen Hurts can be. We know what Carson can be when Carson is fixed, when Carson is confident, playing well, and doing everything he needs to do, or has everything he needs to be able to be successful. And I want to point to, it's a perfect example, and one of the guys that I follow, Philly 500, great channel. Go like and subscribe to him. He's one of the premier YouTube Eagle reporters on YouTube, and so go like and subscribe to him, because he's freaking awesome. But it's similar to the Marcus Mariota situation. I believe, just like Philly 500, that we asked Carson to put on this weight in the offseason so that he can protect himself from the hits. And let's be honest, it worked. I mean, 50 sacks and 120 plus hits in 11 and a half games, and the dude was still standing. I mean, it worked, but it probably threw off his mechanics. It definitely made him slower. His escapability in the pocket was slower. His reaction time was slower. Everything, it kind of threw off anything. And I don't want that to be overlooked. You can easily say, oh, well, that sounds like DB. That sounds like a cop out. No, it's really not. It's really not. Anytime that you change the foundation to the way that your body operates, your body is going to operate differently. That's just common sense. I mean, I feel like that should be just common sense. But perfect example is Marcus Mariota. They did the same thing with Marcus Mariota. And then Marcus Mariota dropped his weight down. And then look what he did on Thursday night. in 2 quarters. In 2 quarters, Marcus Mariota played like the best quarterback out there on the field. Marcus Mariota played like he was living up to his first round draft pick billing. I think Marcus Mariota probably played the best game that he's played of his career in 2 quarters on Thursday night. So we know what Carson can do. We've seen what Carson can do. It's a mixed bag for me. I'm split down the line. I am split down the line, honestly. I really am. A part of me, I want to see Jalen Hurts do well. I want to see what he can do. I want to see what he can become. There hasn't been 1 ounce of play from Jalen Hurts, or 1 snap from Jalen Hurts that I haven't been where I've been unimpressed. There hasn't been 1. I've been impressed by pretty much everything that he's done on the field, not just over the last 6 quarters of football, but pretty much the entirety of this every time he's been on the field this season. And I go back to that seam that pass down for down the seam route to Dallas Goedert against the Steelers that he threw. I mean, that was a great pass. It was quick time. It was a quick timing pass, and he got it down the field, and it was great. So there hasn't been one snap or 1 ounce of playing time that I've been unimpressed with Jalen Hurts. So it's a mixed bag for me. I want to see what he can become. I'm excited about his development, but then again, I've been waiting for a quarterback like Carson Wentz for a long time. And by that, I mean an Aaron Rodgers prototype. And he was that. So before I get some of those who say that I'm being hyperbolic, or I'm overreacting, or I'm over-exaggerating Carson Wentz's potential, no, I'm not. He exactly was. His potential reeked of Aaron Rodgerisms early in his career, and it still does. Carson is just broken. He's just broken, but he can be fixed. And basically where I leave that is, I want to see us fix Carson before we even think about pulling the trigger of trading him. But obviously we're too late on that. We're obviously thinking about trading him. And so now I'm just left with, I think we need to fix Carson before we trade him, because it's only fair. You get both quarterbacks the best of their ability, performing at their best, and then you can see what they're doing at their best, and then you can compare them at their best. And what does their best look like right next to each other? Is this guy's best better for us, or is this guy's best better for us? I'll tell you right now, Jalen Hurts has the upper hand, obviously, right now. The younger guys respond better to him. The running game has a higher percentage chance of opening up with Jalen Hurts in the game. And we saw that last week against the Saints. Speaking of the running game, I fully expect, and I'm totally excited about, I hope that Miles Sanders continues his fire. So I hope that continues, and it's gonna need to. If we want to win today, and go on a streak, and I agree with my fellow YouTuber Philly 500 on this. If they win today and beat the Cardinals at 2:05 Mountain Standard Time here in Arizona, I believe that they will win the division. Because that's just a streak that that's just back-to-back weeks of 2 games that you should not have won, 2 impressive victories that kind of momentum carries, those kind of wins give you momentum that carry you to the playoffs. It just does. It just does. And the big question really is what if Jalen Hurts wins a playoff game? Where do you draw the line? Like, what will it be? What convinces you? What will convince you that Jalen Hurts should be the starter going forward? What will be that? What will be that point? What will be that? What will be that marker at the end of the road? Some believe it should already happen. Some believe he needs to win out. Some believe he needs to win out and take us to the playoffs. Some believe that he needs to win out, take us to the playoffs, and win a playoff game. I think that's where I'm at with that. I think I'm that last one. I think if Jalen Hurts wins out, takes us to the playoffs, and he gets us a playoff victory, then I think I'll be a little bit more okay with unloading Carson. Then I think I'll be okay with unloading Carson. The only other option for me being okay with unloading Carson is if the Eagles do go ahead and officially name him the starter of the future, Jalen Hurts, then I'll say, okay, well, Carson Wentz deserves to be the starter somewhere else. He will be the starter somewhere else. Trade Carson. Because Carson Wentz was absolutely flanked by this organization. And honestly, it was Howie Roseman. It was Howie Roseman. We would not be in this predicament if Howie Roseman did not do what he did. For Jalen Hurts, key to victory today: get the ball out quick, protect yourself. Don't take any. Try not to take that many sacks. I think the Cardinals are going to bring the heat. The Cardinals are going to bring the heat, and they're going to get theirs. So they're going to get some sacks today. Especially off the heels of Hassan Reddick having the best game of his career last week against the Giants. I think he had 5 sacks against that Giants defensive line. They had a total of 8 sacks. That's a pretty big accomplishment with the way that Giants offensive line had been playing. Now, granted, there's a couple factors that have been overlooked. Daniel Jones wasn't as mobile as he has been. And he was kind of playing on one leg, so he was pretty much like a statue back there in the pocket. So Jalen Hurts is going to be a different animal. We'll have to see what they do. There's only one way Matt Pryor will have success in this game, and that's if we coached him up. We coached him up really, really well. And we have a history of being able to do that, getting guys ready for big moments. We usually play well against Aaron Donald and the Rams. We usually play well against Khalil Mack and the Bears. We usually play well against stud defensive linemen and stud defensive lines. It didn't shock me. I mean, it was absolutely awesome to see, but it didn't shock me that we were able to pull that off against the Saints last week. That at least the offensive line performance, at least just that, it didn't shock me to my core. We've seen this offensive line, we've seen our offensive line coach pull that off before. And so I'm hoping that we can get Matt Pryor coached up well enough to be able to do that this week. Yeah, Jalen Hurts has got to get the ball out quick. Jalen Hurts has got to perform better while on the run. Jalen Hurts has got to, and by that I mean passing. He absolutely was horrible throwing it on the run last week. But then again, that number is pretty skewed because he did throw it away on at least like 4 or 5 attempts. So the running game has to get going. Miles Sanders. I'm hoping that they use a little bit more of Jordan Howard this week. I think that with a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, having a power runner and Miles Sanders could be lethal. It could absolutely be lethal. It could be reminiscent of what the Ravens do. And I think that's another important thing to talk about that nobody's really talking about, really, is that Marty Morningweg is on this staff. And actually, Jalen Hurts was asked about it this week. Marty Morningweg is on this staff, and he has been helping Jalen Hurts. Marty Morningweg obviously helped Lamar Jackson get acclimated into the NFL when Joe Flacco was still on the Ravens. Marty Morningweg was the offensive coordinator for the Ravens when they drafted Lamar Jackson. So, those are all interesting tidbits, and I don't expect anything less. It just kind of behooved me a little bit a couple weeks ago when we didn't know who the play caller was going to be, and we hadn't heard Morningweg's name being called whatsoever at all. So, so now it's finally good to hear that Marty Morningweg has been aiding Jalen Hurts in his time of development. Another thing too is Reuben Frank put out a great article. Reuben Frank put out a great article that it looks like Doug is happy with the way that Carson is looking. He's actually excited to watch Carson because it looks like Carson is playing free on the scout team. I think it was funny. Somebody said something. Yeah, I would be free. I would be playing a little bit more free too. I'm getting paid the amount of coin that I'm getting paid, and I'm on the scout team. My job is not that hard. No, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. I'm glad that I'm glad that that's the case. So that's all good. But anyway, this is DB Talking Now, DB Talking Birds, DB Talking Philadelphia Eagles. I will be back with you during the live stream of the game. You guys have a beautiful Sunday.